So, myth busting time. There's this statistic you hear all the time, especially if you're thinking about starting a small business, that 90% of all restaurants fail in their first year. And it sounds like it might have a grain of truth to it because we've all seen restaurants come and go. In fact, where I live in the Metro East, there are a few locations where I've seen a revolving door of restaurants move in, open their doors, never find a following, and eventually close. It's almost like the owners are oblivious to the fact that everyone else who's ever tried that location has failed. Maybe the rent's really cheap or something. It's hard to understand why people set themselves up for failure like that. But you know what? In reality, the evergreen statistic reported by the National Restaurant Association in 2010 is that just 30% of restaurants fail in their first year, and that a cumulative total of 60% fail within 3 years. That's about 9,000 restaurants total out of about 30,000 new ones that start each year to join a pool of around 1 million restaurants in the country. Average restaurant revenues are around $600,000, which of course doesn't count wait staff tips and doesn't factor in margins, but the business model is not nearly as precarious as you might believe. How could it be? I mean, people have got to eat, right? And sure, there are good years and bad years. 2025 and 2026 are bad years as food prices rise and consumer spending patterns change. But there are still plenty of restaurants operating in the black, and there will continue to be down the road. But even so, it's worth looking at why restaurants fail and why they succeed. And I'll just go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. The answer, more often than not, is marketing. Not just promotion, but all those other P's as well. Product, price, place, people, process, and physical evidence. So let's explore why so many restaurants set themselves up for failure and why some still succeed. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this is the Marketing Gateway. So the basis for what we're going to discuss today is a paper series I came across called Why Do Restaurants Fail by H.G. Parsa and various collaborators. You can find all 5 papers in the show notes, and you should obviously read them if you're interested in this topic. The first one came out in 2005, and the most recent one is from 2017. I've also included a more practical piece from 2026 published on the website St. Louis Restaurant Review by Marty Smith, which is fine. His chief argument is that restaurants fail because they don't plan well enough for cash flows, which are, of course, the number one killer of any business in any category. He's not wrong, but I found that businesses that focus too much on cost controls and not enough on marketing tend to be miserable places to patronize as a customer. You gotta find a middle ground, and that's what the broader paper series points to. Okay, so let's begin with why anyone would want to get into the restaurant business, because it is a hard business. A lot of times, restaurateurs are people who love to cook or bake or serve food, or have always dreamed about owning their own community gathering place. It's a pretty common business for people to get into when they retire from their careers, and it's pretty normal for people to recruit their families, close friends, or colleagues to help them get started. So let's start with the basics. The restaurant business involves 4 basic considerations: who you want to serve, where you want to serve them, how you want to serve them, and what returns you expect to generate. All of these considerations should help you inform your style of cuisine and basic service model and determine your marketability and success. So, for example, if you're going to open a fine dining restaurant specializing in Sri Lankan cuisine in a small town in the Midwest, good luck, unless you have a large Sri Lankan population or some really open-minded Midwesterners. But if you're going to open a lunch buffet across the street from a busy workplace like a hospital and offer a pan-Asian selection of food that'll please pretty much anyone, you're probably going to have a greater chance of success. If you're hoping to make a lot of money in the restaurant business, you need to have an approach that's going to generate a lot of revenue because the market's ultra competitive and it's hard to generate high margins. This often means going into busy areas and focusing on quick service or offering extra amenities like alcohol, gambling, or amusement areas, or televisions dedicated to sports. But if you're just trying to feed your family and give a few other people a place to work, you can probably get by with lower volume and instead enjoy having more time to connect with your customers and offer a more personal experience. And that is not nothing, by the way. For many local restaurant owners, connection to their community is actually high on the list of desired features. So the paper series suggests that while a common piece of advice for restaurant owners is that location is an all-important decision, the truth, the authors find, is more nuanced than that. Yes, some locations are definitely terrible, as evidenced by that revolving door restaurant location that I've seen near my home. But the reason these locations are terrible might be a factor that's less obvious. Perhaps the rent's too high for the restaurants that can fit into that space, or perhaps the traffic patterns make it hard to reach that location, or perhaps the wrong kinds of restaurants keep going into that location and fail because there aren't enough customers to support them. Another myth about location is that being near a residential area will bring in customers. The research finds this is only partially true because there are different types of residents. Generally, younger, more transient people like college students or those starting out in the workforce are more likely to patronize restaurants near their homes, while those who are more established will drive further to restaurants they actually prefer, if they eat out at all, since restaurant patronage tends to decline with age and household size, particularly in suburban communities. Restaurants in urban areas benefit from more foot traffic and repeat business since they are often serving workers who are pressed for time and buying food on meal breaks. But they can also suffer if they're too far from other choices that draw in customers or too near similar ones that take away their business. In short, the research shows that location's an important factor that can add some drag or lift to a restaurant's chances of success, but it's not an all-important one. What does impact restaurant success is marketing, and this is one reason why national chain restaurants and franchises tend to fare better than local chains or one-off restaurants. National chains tend to have given more careful consideration to the who, where, what, and how of the business model. Some of the more successful franchise chains also require franchisees to have enough working capital and borrowing power to be able to weather a short-term cash flow crisis so they can stay in business for the long haul. So, what is it that these national chains do right that local chains often do wrong when it comes to marketing? More often than not, it's about viewing the restaurant as a retail service business where the desire for an experience is the draw, rather than as a product business where the food is the draw. The notion that people dine out because they're hungry is actually only true some of the time. Often people dine out in anticipation of being hungry and have some other motive, like they're out and about and don't want to go home. They're celebrating a special event, they're tired and they want to sit and eat for a bit, they're trying to fit a meal into a busy day, or maybe they're just looking for some novelty because they don't feel like cooking. And so the service model of a restaurant needs to understand what a clientele is looking for. Busy people who just want a quick bite so they can get back to whatever they were doing aren't looking for table service and lots of options. They're better off served by limited menus, ordering at the counter service, and flexible options for seating. People who want to linger, on the other hand, are more interested in the experience of dining out and shouldn't be rushed out the door. They're going to expect more detailed menus, a higher quality of service, amenities like free bread or a fully stocked bar, or an atmosphere that encourages them to stick around. They're also generally willing to pay a higher price for the experience. The quality of the food needs to match the price point to some degree, but it's really the presentation, going back to our 7 Ps framework, the physical evidence, that needs to impress the customer the most. The bigger question then is how to get people in the door, especially if you're in a location where foot traffic is low and you need to pull customers in through a promotional strategy. A lot of restaurants use coupons to do this, and coupons and special promotions are effective at bringing in customers who just want to try a place they haven't been before or who need a justification for eating out instead of making food at home. Promotions that offer significant discounts, unlimited servings, or free food can be quite popular, but they also come with a major downside as they bring in customers who expect full service for a discounted price and who generally don't want to be upsold or add on additional menu items. This is one of the major reasons Groupon isn't nearly as popular as it once was. Many restaurants learned the hard way that bringing in customers with great deals was self-defeating and could actually hurt their business more than it helped it, particularly if customers felt entitled to service they weren't paying for and decided to leave negative reviews to get back at the business. Another promotional strategy that can work is combining outdoor advertising with prominent signage to make customers aware that a restaurant location is near. This tends to work best for places where visibility is low, like on the interstate, or where travel paths are really variable, like in an urban area or a shopping center. Generally, outdoor advertising is used to create awareness and desire, while signage is used to mark the final destination. And of course, A time-tested promotional strategy comes from generating buzz or word of mouth, often by attracting media coverage or developing a reputation for a specific dish or type of cuisine. Local restaurants tend to seek out buzz for something that makes them distinctive and unique. Maybe they offer a local delicacy or have a prominent chef or have cracked the code on some sort of fusion dish that everyone's excited about. Quite often, their focus is on quality. National chains, by contrast, often tend to seek buzz for novelty or trendiness, perhaps offering a promotional tie-in with a popular media franchise, introducing a "you gotta try this" sort of entree, or touting one of their items as being a great choice for a fad diet. Promotional marketing also works best if it builds up the brand image beyond the idea of a limited time offer. So, for example, if a restaurant is known for roast beef, but it's promoting a chicken sandwich only available for a few months, the promotional strategy might help the chain to sell chicken, but won't have strong long-term effects on building up the brand. Discounting a restaurant's most popular or visible items better reinforces the brand, but it's also worth asking if a discount is even necessary. Sometimes just reminding people that a desired option is available is more than enough to bring them in the door, and good consumer research can aid in setting the right promotional strategy. Beyond promotion, there's one more consideration that restaurants absolutely need to have in mind if they want to be successful, and that is service quality. Yes, food quality and safety matters a lot, as any health inspector will tell you, but the service itself also needs to be of a particular standard because the restaurant business is really a service business. Many restaurants are still using outdated service models that don't meet the needs of their customers, and those that don't update how they're doing things are the most vulnerable to failing. So, for example, lunch customers generally don't want table service or lots of choices. They want counter service or takeout so they can get in and get out. Making it easy for them to order and pick up food will not only improve sales, but help tables turn over faster so more customers can be served. Dinner customers, by contrast, may want a place to sit and eat with more choices on the menu and wait staff available to attend to their needs. But limited wait staff who don't provide personal service, but who also don't need to be tipped because they're paid appropriately, are also often greatly appreciated in lower price settings. Making a restaurant design flexible enough to focus on serving the customer's needs is vital in 2026, and that requires strong management and a willingness to listen to customers and try new things. All too often, restaurant owners decide to do things their own way and then wonder why customers stop showing up. They'll blame a number of factors for the downturn, and yet other restaurants around them that have adjusted will be reaping the benefits of good marketing strategy. I hope this primer into the restaurant business has been helpful, and I do encourage you to check out the papers I linked to in the show notes. But I also encourage you, if you're a restaurant owner or entrepreneur, to look at a situation where you're failing as an opportunity to try new things and to reinvent what you're doing. Change your portions, adjust your service model, or go out of your way to do something to stand out. Just be sure you're doing so with a clear marketing strategy in mind. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this has been the Marketing Gateway. See you next time. This month's plug is for the American Marketing Association St. Louis chapter, or AMA St. Louis. And, many of our guests that are on the Marketing Gateway have been part of this organization. Some of them are members, some of them are board members, some of them are people that just show up. And all of those kinds of folks are welcome. I go in there as a researcher, not expecting to meet very many other marketing researchers. Sometimes I get to meet a few, but I meet a lot of other people that are doing other things: digital marketing, accounts-based marketing, creative agencies, billboards, marketing strategy, fractional CMOs, teaching in the classroom, all sorts of other things related to marketing. And some organizations send their entire department to some of our events. Some of them just send one person. You get to know people from all over the area who are doing all kinds of neat and interesting things. I want to mention, you can come to any of our fun events without having to be a member. I'm a member. I'm not on the board right now, but I am a member. So I just show up, but I wasn't a member for a while. And we have a coffee club. We do the first Thursday of every month. We have usually some kind of seminar at lunch or breakfast, or this month it's bowling, that we do somewhere in the month. And we also have all kinds of neat activities, including a conference, which is going to be in April. So if you're interested, go to amastlouis.org to sign up. I think you will find that it is well worth your time to connect to your local marketing community.